It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew version 1.0 decklist to the commander in front of us on my quest to brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below, so I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. I'd appreciate it. But today, we're finishing up Dragon Week, and I wanted to finish up Dragon Week with a 5-color deck, obviously, because there's so many great 5-color options. And I thought I'd pick the one that I think I've been seeing a lot of love lately online. I've been hearing a lot about in Tiamat. Today, we're going to have 2 Tiamat lists up. This one is going to be the kind of normal budget Millsy Brews version, as well as I'm going to put kind of a higher budget option for Tiamat up as well. It's hard in 5 colors, right? Because I think so much of your resources go towards fixing and ramping and all that good stuff. But I wanted to kind of make another version where we could play some of the heavy hitter dragons. But obviously, Tiamat is a 7 mana, 5-color dragon. When it enters, if we cast it, we're going to search for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that each have different names and reveal them and put into our hand and then shuffle. So we way to get all the key dragons we want. There's a lot of ways we can approach this. I think to me, the thing that makes most sense in my head is, of course, getting the dragons you want, and then finding ways to either cheat them in or give them haste when they come in, so that way, as we're playing these dragons, they come in and do value for us right away, get in to hurt our opponents, and just overall get right as much value as we can from our dragons. I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. If you're interested in seeing all of our videos just a little bit early for just $1 a month, check it out down below. Well, all right, we've got a lot of dragon options in 5 colors, and truthfully, I could probably spend a good 20 minutes just talking about all the different dragons we do have in the deck. What I wanted to do was just kind of give you the highlights of the dragons that I'm looking for, the dragons that I think are worth either the Tiamat search or seeing in your opening hand, and the dragons that are going to help be the base for value for us. Atarka World Render says whenever a dragon attacks, it gets double strike until end of turn, a very useful ability. Considering all of our dragons are normally pretty big on their own, this is going to make them hit even harder when we actually get them into combat and get them going. Gainax makes a treasure whenever it or another dragon enters the battlefield. This is a really nice ability because not only are we going to put dragons on the battlefield, but we also have dragons that make dragon tokens when we do certain things, and those are going to get us more treasures as well. Remember, treasures can tap for mana of any color, so they really help us fix there, right? Same thing with Goldspent Dragon. Whenever it attacks, we're going to make a treasure, and then it allows treasures to sack for 2 mana of any one color, which is just, I think, a little bit more helpful, right? Because then we can get more mana out of our treasures. Hellkite Courser, when it enters, we can put a commander we own from the command zone onto the battlefield. It gets haste and return it back. This isn't as good for Tiamat as it is for some other dragons specifically. But I think the really beneficial thing about this is this does not count as casting your commander, so it won't take the commander tax. And then you just get a free hit with Tiamat. Remember, we don't cast it, so we're not searching. But I think there's still a lot of value that could be had from getting your commander in for a turn, knocking out some commander damage on somebody, and just getting some big attacks. Kolgan, the Storm's Fury, can be dashed in with haste. If you do it, though, it has to come back to your hand at the end of turn. But it just says whenever a dragon we control attacks each creature we control gets +1/+0 till end of turn. So we can really buff our dragons when we're attacking. Lathless is an example of one of those dragons that can make tokens for us. Whenever another non-token dragon comes in, we get to make a dragon token. Again, just filling up our board, becoming a real threat. And the nice part about our haste enablers is these tokens will be able to attack too and really help us out. Probably one of the single most popular dragon commanders not in 5 colors. Might pretty quickly get eclipsed by Ureni, but Miram is a very strong dragon option and something we'll happily keep in the deck. Whenever another non-token dragon comes in, we get to make a copy of it, except that copy is not legendary if the dragon's legendary. Just a great way to double up on a lot of really key dragons we love in the deck. This also could make you a second copy of Tiamat. No, the second copy wouldn't go ahead and search you again because it wasn't cast. But I mean, the more dragons we have, the better, right? Since we're trying to rule the game in the sky. Old Gnawbone is probably one of those top tier dragons you're going to be looking for in a lot of dragon decks. Whenever a creature we control hits a player, you just make that many treasure tokens equal to that combat damage. This is a brutal ability in a lot of ways, but it's really helpful because those treasures are just going to help fund the rest of our game plan. We really only need one combat with Gnawbone on the board for those treasures to really just propel us forward and get us access to everything we need. I wanted to try Ramos. I think Ramos seems like a ton of fun. Whenever you cast a spell, you put a counter on it for each of the spell's colors, and then you can remove 5 counters from Ramos to just add 2 each of Wooburg. This is just a really fun ability, and I think it's just going to help fund our mana as we play our spells, right? And we can always save Ramos for a future turn, if we need it at the right time to get all that mana. Scion of Draco is a really fun dragon. We should be able to get it down for the lowest will be 2 mana, because we do have a way to get all basic land types under our control. But it gives dragons abilities depending on their color. White dragons get Vigilance, Hexproof for blue, Lifelink for black, First Strike for red, and Trample for green. So all those are useful abilities. And of course, our 5-color dragons will get all of them, right? Which is nice as well. The other dragon I had considered to do for our 5-color option was Scion of the Ur Dragon, and we might do it eventually. Scion's very popular for its ability. You can pay 2 to search your library for a dragon and just put it on the battlefield. I think this makes it dangerous and what makes it a really big combo commander of getting the right dragons at the right time. But I think it's a really nice slot-in piece here. If you see it, if you can see it early, I mean, you just start going to get key dragons like Mira, Merald Gnawbone, or some of these other ones, and just really start opening the game wide open for you. Scourge of Valkus has that nice piece of text. Whenever it or another dragon comes in, it deals X to any target, where X is the number of dragons we control. The wider we go, the more damage our dragons are doing to our opponents and helping us soften them up for combat. Silumgar says whenever a dragon we control attacks, creatures defending player controls get -1/-1 till end of turn. This is really nice to start targeting the right people, right? Maybe taking out their tokens, their low to the ground board as we're rolling the air in the sky. There's Ureni, going to probably pretty quickly become one of the more popular dragon commanders. Whenever it enters or attacks, you look at the top 8, put a dragon from among them on the battlefield, and put the rest on the bottom. Ureni's a ton of fun. It's a commander I've been playing around with a ton, but I think it's going to help a lot here and probably going to be one of the key looks we're going to go for off of Tiamat. And then, of course, the card that might be able to win us a game in Call the Spirit Dragons. A 5 mana, 5-color enchantment that just gives all of our dragons indestructible, which is, to me, great to begin with. But then it adds on that at the beginning of our upkeep, for each color, you could put a counter on a dragon you control of that color. And if you put a counter on 5 dragons this way, you win the game. So here's a way to potentially win the game if we have a dragon of all 5 colors, individually, of all 5 colors, that we can use. And giving indestructible is huge because that takes away a lot of the removal that our opponents are going to have. Mass removal, right? We're still going to have single target exile removal and things like Farewell. But I think most commonly your board wipes are going to be destruction board wipes, and that's really going to help us keep our dragons alive. I think the other big thing to remember with 5 color is finding all 5 of our colors is going to be tough. So we need ways to do that. And in this deck, I've kind of built 2 ways we can do it. We have things like Nature's Lore and Skyshroud Claim that can go get lands with the forest typing. Here we're using Triomes. Think things like Zeator's Proving Ground or Jetmir's Garden or Spara's Headquarters. These tri-lands that have 3 colors and have 3 basic land typings on them. As well as we're using things like Rampant Growth to go get the few basics in the deck we have. The important thing to remember about fixing, as we see 3 visits as well, is my suggestion for a 5-color deck is look at the cards in your deck. If you're noticing that a lot of your cards are in the same 2 or 3 colors, my advice is build your mana base around those 2 or 3 colors and then use the corner case lands to get the rest of them. You have things like Chromatic Lantern you can use that are just going to allow all your lands to tap for any color. Same thing with like Leyline of the Guild Pact. Can come in and make each non-land permanent you control all colors, which can really help with Call the Spirit Dragons, and just allows all our lands to be each type, again, just allowing them to tap for any mana we want. These are the kind of fixing things that can be really useful alongside Ramp that can go get any land we want at the right time. But where I think what makes Dragon decks so good when we get ourselves going is giving our dragons haste and allowing them to attack the turn they come in. Because it's all in good to play an 8-mana scary dragon, but if I have to wait a turn to use it, it's not as beneficial as coming in with haste. And there's a lot of ways we have for this. Temur Ascendancy gives all of our creatures haste, and whenever a creature power 4 or greater comes in, we get to draw a card. Frostcliff Siege gives them +1/+0 trample on haste. Dragon Tempest just gives every flyer that comes in under our control haste, and then that has a second copy of that Scourge of Valkus ability in our deck, which can be very useful to ping some damage out. There's more haste enablers than this, but it's important to have enough of these so that if we're spending 7 mana on Tiamat, that it's coming in and doing something the turn it comes in, right? It's coming in and affecting the board state this turn, as opposed to just taking the turn off. Just as well as protections is important, and the deck's packed with it as well. I think haste is so important, including finding ways to cheat our dragons in as well. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at Tiamat. I've actually never done it for the channel before. And I think going into testing, truthfully, I think the support of the deck's fine. I think the mana base is fine. I've done enough playtests that I think you can get your 5 colors when you want them. I think the big difference between this and the no budget version is going to be the dragons you choose. And this is just a selection of 3 dragons that are in the no budget version that are not in this one, just due to their cost. Obviously, Copper Dragon, one of the most popular dragons, getting that reprint in Final Fantasy through the ages. Whenever it hits a player, you roll a d20, make that many treasures. It's a great ability, and if you can get it in and get it hasty, or get in and with Miram and make a copy of it, there's so many great interactions with Copper Dragon. It's a dragon we love. Just truthfully, it's $100, and it's tough to swallow $100 for one card in a commander deck, especially when you're not guaranteed to see it. Yes, Tiamat could help us find it more often, right? Because it has the ability to go get those 5 dragons of our choice. But it's important to remember that at the end of the day, we want to spread the value of our deck out over. Same thing with something like Astral Dragon. I love Astral Dragon. I've had a ton of fun playing this in both Miram and in my new Urani list. Coming in, making a copy of any non-creature permanent, except 2 copies of it, except they're through 3 dragons as well. Can copy a lot of things. Dragon Tempest is a great target. There's plenty of other great targets for it. Your opponent's things, mana rocks. There's so many things Astral Dragon can come in and copy and just get you value on the spot. And then Cavern Horde Dragon comes in for a little bit less for the opponent who has the most artifacts. Comes in flying, trample, haste, and then when it hits a player, you make a treasure for each artifact they control. Again, all three of these are just really useful dragons. But the problem is when you're working on a budget like we do on Millsy Brews of $300 to $400, like a $20, $30, $40 dragon is something you have to think sparingly about because you only get so many of them. And these are probably the dragons that I would look to start bringing in my first cuts or my first ads if I'm willing to up my budget. But let's get into our playtest. Man, me and drawing extra cards, fat figure the draw button. Let's get into playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest on our channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not to show off our best plays, but it's to get in some gameplay scenarios and understand how are we going to build our board and what are we looking for. Here we got a 2-lander with 3 visits and Sagu Wildling. Remember what? On that sorcery, on the Omen side, we can go get a basic land and put it in our hand. This is important because it can help fix us, right? We're playing at least 1 basic for every color. Sarkhan can add mana to cast dragons. Dragon's Horde, right? Mana rock that also cares about when dragons come in. And then there's the Call of Spirit Dragons. Fortunately, we saw the Miram because it came in. This almost makes me wonder if I should just use the Sagu Wildling now. I mean, we're looking for the 3 visits next turn. There's green blue. I could go get a Tri-land. The question is, what should I go get off of this Sagu Wildling if I do this now? My thought is almost just to get another one of our core colors. Some of our core colors in the deck are green, red, and blue, right? Teamer, because there's so many great dragons in Teamer. But I think I'm going to get the red. The reason is because, right, Sarkhan being double red, when we go to play this 3 visits, right, we have a couple options. We could do Catch Your Triumph, but I feel like we don't need to. I almost feel like we should either do Ziatora's Proving Ground, which is our Jun land, or we could do the Ketria Triumph, but I'm kind of thinking Ziatora's add some black in. Right now we have a black option as well. Come into this turn, get the Dragon's Horde down. So we've got 2 mana left. We are actually pretty darn close to Sign of Draco. All we're missing is a Plains, right? So Sign of Draco is just 4 mana right now. So we're darn close to Sign of Draco being able to come down. Here we see Foreboding Landscape, letting us can go get either a Swamp, Forest, or Island out of our deck. I'm trying to think of what makes the most sense here. I'm kind of thinking something like Miram sets us up pretty nicely for next turn. Remember, this can be used for colors. We've got all 3 of our colors there. That puts a counter on Dragon's Horde. We missed the land drop here, which just means that we're probably not going to go too hard into... we can't go into Tiamat, obviously, this turn. If I go Sarkhan, I'd have 5 mana for a dragon, which would be enough for Sign of Draco. It's not a bad thing to get a copy of. We could go for something like Lathless and try to set up for more dragon tokens later, but I like Sarkhan. To me, Sarkhan just makes a ton of sense. I guess we'll just go ahead and get the Draco down. And we could still just crack Dragon's Horde for a card here, which could make sense, right? Now Miram has hexproofed First Strike and Trample. I mean, might as well get it hitting in. But now we'll have our 7 mana for Tiamat. So I think it's time just to slam it down. We will get a copy of Tiamat. Remember, the copy of Tiamat doesn't search, right? Because it's only on cast. But the question is, what dragons do you go what you go get? I mean, there's a lot of really great options. Knowing we already have Miram, it kind of makes the choices more fun. I kind of like something like Ureni. It can really start digging through our deck. Ramos is kind of a fun one right now that we have a bunch of multicolored dragons in our hand. Of course, Gnawbone's always a great choice. Charcoal really starts making our attacks a little bit better. We could get something like Scavenger Region if we need a one-sided board wipe. I like Colligan as an option. The truthfully, like, right, there's so many great options here that we could choose from. Terror of the Peaks is really nice to start, right, handing out some damage, right? Like with Scourge of Valkus, Goldspan could help us get some more mana. Vara Hellkite gets us dragons whenever we attack. Deceptive Frostkites could be a fun thing to copy. I like copying Ureni with Frostkite just because you get the option of doing that. But we'll do that, and then we're going to have to go to end step and pitch down, which I think is completely fine. We've got our access to some nice dragons. These guys could all still attack. These guys just can't, which is fine. I mean, no worries there, right, at all. 6, 7, 8 mana with Sarkhan, but just for dragons. I need at least I need at least 2 more dragons in to be able to take advantage of this call the spirits, right? Because it has to be. I'd need a dragon that's another dragon that's 1 or 2 more colors other than these 3, right? So if I go Frostkite, I'll say, I was gonna say, do I play this and then crack the Sarkhan to play a dragon? But I only have 3 mana. So if I do the Frostkite, I can have it come in as a copy of Sign of Draco, but then it's not colored, right? If I have it come in as a copy of Tiamat, this is legendary, and I'd have to get rid of it. But Miram would make me another copy of Tiamat if I wanted to go that route. If I don't play the call, I guess I could play Gnawbone, right? This could make more sense. I get a copy of Gnawbone, attack, make what? 7, 14, probably in the neighborhood of 20 treasures, and then just, put 1 or 2 more dragons down. Now they have all indestructible, and if they make it to our turn, we win off the call. I guess that makes more sense. We could also just jam Ureni there and probably found enough dragons to make it worth it as well. But let's get into playtest number 2 here. Keep it a 2-lander with Miram, Thundermane Dragon. Let's just play those dragons off the top of our library and a couple mana rocks. So this isn't a bad one because those mana rocks are going to really let us help fix our colors, especially since, right, all 3 of those tap for mana of any color. Here, I'm not going to be able to play the 3 visits because of neither of these are going to be able to produce green for it. So we're going to kind of have to keep working our way up. We'll get the Lantern in just so now that all of our lands can actually tap for them. Thinking Dragon's Horde plus the 3 visits. I mean, we have all of our colors at this point, so I'll just go get something like the Ketria Triumph. Now we're building up good. We've got 6 mana. There's 7, so we could slam down Tiamat if we want to. I kind of like the idea of just continuing to build our board. I mean, heck, almost Sign of the Ur-Dragon makes more sense to just go get something we want, because we can do it this turn, right? It and pay the 2. I mean, I think probably something like Gnawbone would be my choice here. Come into our next turn. Same thing, we've got 7 mana open. I love Miram as a dragon, but I think Tiamat also makes a ton of sense as well. This would leave me 5 left over. Because I can just go get all the dragons out of my deck I want, right, with Scion, right? This is kind of the dichotomy of Scion versus Tiamat, right? This is so much more useful because you go get the ones you want, but there's a price you pay and that people know what to expect, right, with Scion of the Ur-Dragon. So that being 5, I'm going to go with Rhythm of the Wild there, and then just go ahead and pay the 2 to look through my library. I almost want to go with something like Ureni, just to go get its ability, right? Look at the top 8. Terra is a great choice. Gainax is a great choice. Ramos is a great choice. Remember, Ramos is only on cast, so if we just cheat a dragon in, it doesn't count. Balefire could be good if our opponents have a lot of creatures just to start nailing down their stuff. But otherwise, I think I just go get Tear the Peaks. Remember, I can give these both either haste or a +1/+1 counter. I think we've got enough, I think, to attack off of the Scion and the Gnawbone. Because once we attack, we're making at the moment 11 treasures. If I attack with Ureni and Terror, we're looking at 18, 23 treasures, which could just go get every dragon from our library. If I go get Scion, if I go get Scourge of Valkus, would that be enough damage? Scourge would come in and deal 5. Terror would deal, 4 off it coming in. The next dragon would deal 6, and then... Well, I would probably play Miram, right? Then go search for Scourge, and then just start searching for more dragons. And as the copies come in, I think that's just enough to probably end the game this turn. You're going to start doling out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage, right? And unless somebody can take Scion off the battlefield, then then you're in good shape. I just feel like that Scion becomes a copy of it. Would that change my any play? Maybe that makes sense because you would lose Scion because it would become legendary. So maybe that's your downside to Scion. Now that actually makes a ton of sense now that I think about it. But hey, that's why you do this, to figure out what your lines are and what makes the most sense. Now that makes sense not to go get Gnawbone and go get it with Tiamat because it's legendary. So okay, these are the things we need to remember in our head as we play and as we try write these decks out. Here we're keeping a 2-lander with Selvala, Skyshroud Claim, Dragon Tempest, there's a Commander Sphere, and then a Tarka. So I was going to say we're pretty darn close getting towards some good stuff. I cracked the landscape. Just trying to think. I don't think there's a way at the moment I can get Selvala down on turn 3 here, unfortunately. I can get Rivaz down now, right? That seems pretty useful. Can start getting us some more mana next turn. There's Frostcliff Siege. I'm thinking Commander Sphere plus Dragon Tempest, right? Setting up some haste for a future turn. Now we're at 4 mana, 6 with Rivaz, but it can only be used to get dragons. I'm kind of thinking of just going deep here, 1, 2, 3, 4 into the Sky Shroud, and go get us a couple tri-lands, right? Just so we have access to some more colors. I'm honestly half thinking about just cracking these landscapes, getting a red there, getting a blue there, just to really prep us, right? Get us access to all of our colors and have us be more ready to go. I mean, we took the turn off kind of anyway, right? So my philosophy here is we're just really setting ourselves up. And then as we come into this turn, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, 2 of it extra we can use just for dragons, and then dragons come in with haste. So I think so we said 10, 2 of it can only be used for dragons. So Tiamat 7. Gotta think of maybe just Selvala plus Tiamat, right? To open up our hand a little bit. Go get 5 dragons of our choice. This is where, right, picking the dragons just gets to be your choice, right? This is the kind of fun part about Tiamat is, right, you get to pick what you want, you know what you're looking for. You could switch it up every time. It'd be easy to say, well, I'm always just going to get the same dragons every time. But, you could switch this up wherever you want. Go get certain dragons every time. Get the same one, but make it random. It's your choice. Tiamat would have haste, so it could get in and attack. I think I'm going to end up having to pitch a card here. I guess it's probably the Frostcliff now that I think about it, because we kind of already have the haste, I guess, there for a lot of our things. And then now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for dragons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 because it's Selvala, and then 2 that can only be used for dragons. We've got a ton of mana. My thought would be Miram plus Ureni. You end up probably just getting you get the second copy of Ureni, 2 digs off the top. You're going to get more dragons, and I think we're just good to go there. Let's do one more playtest here. Keeping a 1/2 lander with Growth Spiral, Nature's Lore, Rhythm of the Wild, the Region, and the Team Ascendancy. So we've got a lot going for us here to just keep ourselves going here. We'll get in these tap lands. Might end up making us a turn behind, but it's okay because we've got we're doing okay. I mean, we're getting access to all of our stuff, right? We'll go get a Zagoth Triumph. Right, there's another Triumph. So 4 mana here. We'll get down something like Team Ascendancy. 5 mana here. Man, our Luck Train roll out. I could still play like Growth Spiral and Rhythm of the Wild. Let's just see if we can get into a land. We don't. Again, I'm just trying to get as much value as I can here. Still at 5 mana. I guess we'll just play the Regent to draw. Give it a counter, let it attack this turn. Again, the hope was just trying to get ourselves right into some more mana. Now we're at 6 mana. Love the option of something like Laughless here. Again, it gets to come in with a counter because of the Rhythm of the Wild and haste because of the Team Ascendancy. Take our attacks this turn. Now we're at enough mana for right Tiamat. Leyline's pretty nice, could help us fix our issues, but I kind of like the idea of something like Ureni here. Make the 5/5 off of Laughless, and let's go digging. The nice part when you have all these dragons in your deck is you can just go get, you can pick what you want when you see it. So our only option there is Zergo and Ojutai. Not a bad dragon. It can get us some extra cards into our hand. We get another 5/5. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4 card draws with Team Ascendancy. And then we'll give these a counters, right, and haste because it's a Team Ascendancy, right? That means that Ureni can attack this turn, right? And might as well have it attack. Now we've got a big attack going in the air, especially with these. Ureni goes off again. Frostgate. It's looking like the option. Let's have Frostgate come in as a copy of Ureni, I guess, which will draw me a card and dig at the top 8. Now, the Frostgate's going to go away, unfortunately, because it tried to copy a legendary creature. But it still gives us the, the search again. Silumgar's just a little bit late because we've already declared our attacks, but that's a-okay. 2 more dragons off those. And then now we just, have a big, we had a big combat. I think we can just pitch. We can pitch some things aside, right? And then getting into our turn, you just put the Call the Spirit Dragons down, right? 3 mana left. We can get the Evasion attack here if we want. But truthfully, I think we're way ahead at that point of just now we can protect our board a little bit easier with the call and end the game the next turn on our upkeep because we'll have everything of all 5 colors. But let me know, what do you think of Tiamat down in the comment section below? Again, this is the budget version. I'll have the non-budget version coming out today as well. You can tell me what you think. Tell me what you think of Tiamat versus even Scion or regular Ur Dragon. I'd love to know what you think, and I will catch you on the next one.